Welcome to this month's Fire Chief's video message. Today, I have firefighter Dre Richardson, Station 23A, here with me. Dre, welcome, and how did you get here?
Chief, thanks for having me. And how did I get here? One day you came into the station, I start talking to you about the show, and you're like, you know what, Dre, you're on this month, well, not this month's show, but you'll be on the show very soon. And here I am to talk about topics that we all talk about in the firehouse, but we don't get the opportunity to talk about them necessarily to anyone, and questions that a lot of people in the firehouses have for the chief. So I said I'll come up and ask you the questions.
And that's exactly how it happened. And I said, you're going to be on my list. And you chuckled, and I said, keep chuckling because I'll get you. So I really appreciate you coming. And clearly the whole goal of having a guest is to bring people from the stations up and bring the station topics up. So we've talked and got some couple good things to talk about today.
Yes, and thanks for having me again. First thing I would like to talk about is social media and your stance on social media and the county's stance on social media. And is there a social media policy, or will there be a social media policy coming down the pike?
Right. So there is a county social media policy, but it specifically deals with what county government agencies can put on and how things can be put on social media by the government entities. That's not a social media policy about how employees and members of the department can do or can have in their social media accounts. I do not see there being a social media policy for the end users or the members of MCFRS, mainly because that falls within personal conduct. That falls within Code of Conduct and Code of Ethics and Policy 2200. The section about personal conduct outlines what is appropriate, what MCFRS personnel should be communicating and presenting and portraying while they're engaged in MCFRS activities, what's on duty, what's considered on duty, and most of the activities that we investigate or look into reference social media are clearly capable of being addressed by Code of Conduct policy and the personal conduct component. When it comes to social media, everybody's got to understand, and it's clear that my staff does understand, that social media and the personnel, your rights, are outlined by the First Amendment, outlined by freedom of expression, and usually in social media it's freedom of speech issue. And we have to take that in light and have to understand that and weigh that to what may be perceived in the social media as a message that is inappropriate. As I tell my kids, as a lot of people have been told by their people that brought them up, as well as they teach their young child, it's not about what you say or what you may post, it's about how it's perceived or how it's received by some people and other people. And while social media is out there, you can't undo what has happened. Once it's gone, what we used to refer to as the Washington Post test, how it would look like tomorrow morning on the Washington Post, social media puts it into the limelight the second after it's hit upload or save. And you can't go back and explain what was part of what the message was or try to elaborate, because what was perceived / received is what people react to. And everybody has to understand that that is an art, or more specifically a element that's not driven by science and can't be controlled. When our people do social media or they do express their rights through those types of platforms, clearly they need to understand that their affiliation to MCFRS connects whatever they said, they liked, they responded to, or anything that's in their social media account or profile to MCFRS. If you have images, pictures of you in uniform, you on fire grounds, you even say within your profile that you work for MCFRS or that you're a member of fire rescue, those elements within your profile then tie your profile to MCFRS. And the messages that you put out, the replies that you tie into a thread, has an affiliation or a nexus to MCFRS. And that's really something critical that everybody needs to understand. Yes, there are issues, and there have been, and there will be issues with things in social media that are offensive to some. And my office and our department will look at that. We'll investigate that. We will talk to the person who's offended by the message and the person who posted or began the message, and try to make sure that they understand that there is this nexus, that there is a component that is affiliated to work, and possibly a component to code of conduct that may be in need of follow-up and further action. Social media is not the highest issue when it comes to technology today. My higher concern is digital imagery or digital capture.
Right.
Our folks have a lot of technology devices, and when we're taking these pictures or when we take images from incident scenes, there's a lot of things that sometimes aren't considered. You, as a responder, our personnel from the department, are given increased access to emergency scenes above the public's level of view. Yes, some of what you take, some of what you see is the same thing the person 5 feet behind you can see or take and does take. So that doesn't mean that you've got greater access. But there are times when we take images that are clearly only for the benefit of those that were there, and were not images that the general public had the right or the ability to see. When we take those images, pictures or videos, and then we post them or then we share them, that creates a greater concern for me, from my office, than the messages about somebody's referral or liking of a thread, or how social media expression of speech and speech goes on. Most often when we deal with these digital images and the problems with digital images, it's because our personnel probably had something better to do at the time they took
Right.
the picture than take a picture.
Mm-hmm.
If you're the engine driver, you probably had something to do in the first handful of minutes other than taking your camera out and taking a picture. If you're, the rapid intervention company member and you're standing in the front yard of the house and the house has still got a good situation, a fire going on, there's active work to be being made, you're probably not free to take out a phone and take a video or a picture of what the third due engine company, the RIC, is seeing. Maybe there's more ladders for the RIC to be putting. Maybe there's windows or doors to be opened up to make it safer for the folks that are inside. So usually when we see these images taken and then posted in social media, the concern is because our member was neglecting or potentially neglecting his or her duties on the fire ground or the emergency scene, and not specifically what they took the image of. And the folks need to understand that yeah, there's a right time and place for taking images. There's a lot to be gained from pictures taken early in the incident scene by first people that arrive or early arriving crews, because that could lead to a post-incident analysis or even more lesson learned capabilities. But when we do it while we're neglecting another duty of ours on the fire ground or the incident scene, that's where we have a problem. And that's the more pressing element of digital imagery. No, we're not looking like a social media policy will be, issued in a fire chief general order, because the vast majority of social media policies throughout government as well as industry usually get overturned because of their restrictions towards the freedoms of expression and the rights provided to personnel. So that paints the picture, or the digital image, about social media, and outlines the fact of use the tools. Everybody has them. Use them respectfully. Understand how you communicate impacts what people receive, and what you may say is not what people may hear or understand. And then surely do your job, take care of the incident priorities, and then when certain things allow and time permits, if it's appropriate, take that image, because it could be a good lesson learned or good documentation component further on. So hope that helped with social media.
Yes, it did. Thank you for that answer, Chief. My next question is about incident stress. And we do a great job with running incidents here in the county and preparing ourselves for those incidents. But my question is the post-incident. And, something like 9/11 has taught us that after such a event or an incident, a firefighter or emergency responder may go through some things to where they may experience some changes mentally. So who do we have in the county that we can speak to about those things? Who can we turn to? Who can we turn to for help if those situations occur?
You use 9/11 or very large monument events as an example, but every event we run over a 10, 20, 30, in some cases 40-year career contributes to incident stress and contributes to our mental health and impacts our mental health as responders. While the call may be small, while the call may be minor, every one of us, the 2,700 of us, reacts differently to that stress initiator or that stress trigger. And while a crew of 5 or 6 or 10 people may go to a call and only one person has a stress reaction to that call, we all have to be respectful to that and understand that everybody reacts differently. We each develop our own coping mechanisms and coping methods, and what may work for us or the majority of us on a specific shift may not work for everybody. And we cannot discount the stress reaction of one just because we who also were on the call didn't have a reaction to that. So we clearly have to be cognitive of everybody reacts differently to these types of triggers, be it a little event or a big event, and how that is a critical issue that needs to be focused on by our supervisors and through the department. And you talked about the department, and there's no doubt that we have a great resource capability at hand. Started many years ago, our critical incident stress management team. There's a little over 30 folks there today, both career and volunteers, that are ready for the call out, ready to come and help with the traumatic car crash or the significant medical emergency that had an influence to the shift, be it a group of kids, be it a very stressful emergency scene. But our own internal CISM team, on-duty folks, peer counselors, and that's one of the core components about stress management that most organizations work with, is peer-level teams. Folks that may be on your shift, maybe in the neighboring station, folks that are on apparatus on a regular basis, who understand the interactions that lead to these types of events, and B, have that additional level of training and understanding to work on reactions. That could be a one-on-one counseling session. That may be a defusing. That may be a debriefing. There may be need for further and follow-up that occurs outside of the work environment. But starts with CISM. The FROMs, through the Wellness and Safety, through Dr. Beasley and our staff there, have a great amount of tools. And when I talk about tools, we, Montgomery County Fire, have the CISM. We also have our friends and partners in other public safety elements. County Police, they have a great peer team. They can be reached out and utilized to assist as needed. We have the Crisis Center in Montgomery County. The Crisis Center has their outreach team as well. They can assist with our personnel. They can also assist and be the key support element for the residents or the citizens that were involved in that incident that are having a similar or stress reaction from what they experienced on that incident. So we have to understand that while we're dealing with stress for our personnel, we may have to deal with the stress reaction and that stress management for the responders, public responders, or the bystanders, citizens that were involved in that incident. As another tool, Montgomery County's EAP, or Montgomery County's Employee Assistance Program, is in place. Folks can refer to EAP, reach out to them, use their resources at hand to assist with stress management. One of the things about peer and critical incident stress management that we are very lucky to have is almost in our backyard, Ellicott City, is the headquarters for the International Critical Incident Stress Foundation, the paramount organization that helps agencies like our own prepare and train for stress and incident response. Is right up the street with some of the highest experts and leading guidance folks within the country on CISM. So we have a large capability of peer support activities, but one thing I don't want to forget to highlight is we also have a great tie to the Montgomery County interfaith community. One of the things I learned about last year, and Montgomery County is leading the way in part of this, and it's actually been referred to throughout the country, is the Montgomery model, is the faith-based community that's being led by the faith-based community, not led by the government organizations. That is a group of parishioners and leaders, all faiths, all denominations throughout the county. A group of them have been trained in what's termed emergency spiritual care volunteers. They've been trained in basic ICS. They've been trained in being able to come out to incident scenes and support that response and support activities. So there's another tool that our CISM members are aware of, that when we do have something that goes beyond our own personnel and reaches out into the community, CISM can be done with the faith-based leaders as well. And that's a great resource that we're just now starting to tap and are there. Dre, your example was the 9/11, the big event.
Yes.
Critical incident stress or stress management will be, in an event like that, part of the incident command system. You know, we have the response or operations, then we have the recovery, and then we have the closeout of the event. So stress management is going to be a component of the ICS on that event, and that's going to be a component of the medical unit and treating our personnel. And it may be the fact that everybody's asked to go to a meeting after the event. Understand, and the folks that are specialists in this do understand. Going to a meeting may not be the way you want to deal with this. So a lot of these activities are not mandatory, but when it comes to a big event, be it an active shooter, a building bombing, a terrorism attack, or the next whatever it may be, how we react to stress management is based upon how we identify it. And I think we have a lot of good identification triggers out there, and a lot of resources available. So clearly something that our former leaders of the department identified as an issue. Stacy Daniels, who's the CISM team leader, and Dr. Beasley are working on a program that they want to roll out the fall of this year and through 2017 to focus on some in-station training about resilience and to bring the topic of stress management back into the station forefront. So look for that in the future.
Thank you. My next question is about recertification. And it is March, and we are doing our research in stations, and they're practically just about due now. So the next question is about driver recertification, and for primary drivers and backup drivers, can we see something down the road as far as a driver recertification program? Sometimes you'll get drivers who are detailed to another station, and in that station they may not have that apparatus that they are detailed to drive at their station, and they may not have driven or operated that apparatus in 6 months or a year. So is there some type of recertification process that the the academy may have us go through.
Right. And you highlighted this, and we talked before the taping about it. And one of the things that drives us into this situation is for the career side, the requirement that a firefighter 3 promotion is tied to being a heavy apparatus driver. And once you get to that firefighter 3 and you are an engine driver, the chance of you driving that engine may be slim to none based upon your duty assignment, based upon your seniority within that duty assignment, based upon our primary drivers and our backup drivers. And then as you exampled, you may be detailed out a year later and sent to a place to be the driver of that engine company. Now you're in an unfamiliar territory, different crew, and you haven't really driven or been responsible for unit operations for an extended period of time. And that's driven because we tie firefighter 3 to driver operator. Recertification as a tool towards the February cycle is an interesting perspective, something that I had not heard about, hadn't thought about until we dialogued in preparation for the meeting. The question, like we talked about, is how much and what frequency. And part of this is the specific skills. Shall we talk about pump qualifications or pump calculations, and how an engine driver needs to be aware of and able to do the calculations for pump operations? It's not just all 150 and let it be. So that could probably be done with an online process for engine drivers and take care of that. So pumps or trucks or rescue squads, some specific questions and refresher validation questions pertaining to skills of that breed could be done through a outreach or electronic medium. But as you talked about, part of this is wheel time, being in the vehicle behind the wheel. Policy 23007, the driver certification policy, outlines a process. It's called the familiarity checkout. Outlines a process that if you are that firefighter who gets sent from 23 to station 37, and you're told to drive the engine company, and you haven't driven the engine company in a long time, when you get there, that policy is what is in place for you to reach out to the captain or the officer, say, hey Cap, I haven't driven a wagon in 2.5 years. I haven't driven this rescue squad in 2.5 years. Can so-and-so from the other shift stay for an hour or 2 hours and go over the rescue squad with me? That's outlined in the policy. And that's something I expect our folks, the driver, to ask for if he or she wishes it, and clearly our folks at the station level management need to support that when it's asked for. Because, you may not have driven that rescue squad or that tower or that specialty vehicle for such a long period of time. You may not know how to, you may forget the nuances of how to set up that vehicle or how to operate all the equipment on that vehicle. So the familiarity checkout talks about checking out the vehicle.
Right.
Driver, a 10-mile drive course to get you familiar on it, using all the portable equipment on the vehicle. So that's already in place, and our folks need to take advantage of that when they're placed into that dynamic. How we incorporate something like this into a actual checkoff or evaluation process and the frequency is something I'm going to turn to Chief Jones about and Adam Jones at the Academy and ask Dan and Pat at the driver's training to come up with some suggestions. With a whole large number of drivers every year for everybody on every breed, may be beyond practical. Having some of it done with a distance learning or an online process and tie part of it into a cone or driver validation process, that may be something that can be done in station through a utilization of your primary drivers and your unit officers to validate the skill sets of the firefighters who aren't normally driving, and not specifically be on the academy grounds all through a central point. But good question. It's a point that with 116,000 calls and a lot of responses a year, some people get a lot of experience and others get limited experience. So good points, and hopefully get some information back out about that.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for that answer. And the last thing I would like to speak about comes from a shift made of mine, actually, is about logbooks. And in 2016, we have CAD, we have ECC. So why are we still writing in logbooks in the year 2016 with the technology that we have?
Logbooks are what may be described as a legacy element that may be unnecessary, but logbook actually merges a lot of different things that aren't in place in other places. Incident recordation, station activities, personnel assignments, time and attendance. Some of those points are partially touched on by different electronic systems, but there's not one system that captures it all. We don't do daily activity reports anymore. We don't record training in the number of hours and the number of people that participated in training via a daily activity report that was typed up and sent to the captain or the district chief at the time, and moved forward, and then those were filed and sorted and identified as to how many hours did we do for driver's training. But one of the things that we do have a shortcoming on is our training recordation. And we've been gigged on that a couple times before, and we're working to utilize the Fire app training module to do more recordation for training, because while training that's done at the academy is recorded through the academy process and done very well, through SAMs, or what's known as Station Activity Management, and a component of PIMS, the information system and system that's used by the folks in the volunteer division, they record training hours very detailed. We need to implement a consolidated system, both career and volunteers. And Chief Steve Jones and Chief Hine are working towards utilizing SAMs or PIMS to do it all and have it built in there together. Would utilizing PIMS and SAMs replace the paper logbook? Likely not. Yeah, your example, and regretfully our last one was Laytonsville many years ago. Paper logbooks are great because they do bring back history, and somebody who's been assigned to a firehouse for 20 years can go back 20 logbooks ago and comment about those days, or look where they were on that day and look who else was working with them that day. So there is a legacy and historical perspective that the logbooks bring. And regretfully, if they get damaged or lost, then that is just absolutely gone. Where electronic medium is not able to be, directly lost, it may be replicated, backed up, and this such. I do still believe that paper logbooks will have a place. We still call things buggies, even though we don't have horses and buggies to refer to. So there are some points of fire service that are reflecting back to the days gone past. And yeah, some of us are overly regimented in what used to be red for fire call and green for an EMS call, and what was blue pen in the book and what was black pen in the book. There was a lot of really finite elements in the past. That's pretty much all gone. But there's definitely a value in the station logbook process. So maybe see some changes here, recordation and training logging, but keep the paper logbook up and make that an assignment as one of the collateral duties in the station that day.
Hey, well, we keep it up at 23.
So you kept the lights on last night, you said.
Oh yeah, the lights were on all night, Hotel 23.
So
you know what? I did say that was the last question, but this is really the last question. Chief, do you know what a selfie stick is?
I do know what a selfie stick is. Pete's not here today, so usually Pete Paringer brings out the selfie stick and takes his selfies.
Well, Dre's here today, and guess what I have?
So Dre was challenged by his brothers at 23.
Yes, this is a selfie stick. So they said that Dre would not take a selfie with the fire chief. So are you ready for the selfie?
Are you going to post it on social media?
Maybe not.
Maybe not. Go
Maybe
for
not.
it.
You know.
Come on.
So as you can see,
Oh,
there's
it's a countdown
even.
timer.
Oh yeah, we have to count down.
Why can't it talk to us?
They probably can. So, yes, my brothers at 23 will love this, and I'm pretty sure they're really, really gonna love this. Chief, thanks for having me,
Trey.
and it's been a pleasure.
So, as always, and I totally did put you on the spot. Like I said, you're going to be a guest in the upcoming month, and I appreciate you coming. And good topics and stuff that I know you brought from the stations, and that's the whole purpose of our messages. So, with the selfie stick in hand and the questions that Dre brought, and the little bit of a challenge between B shift and A shift at Station 23, we wrap up this month's video with Dre from 23A. Next month, I hope to have a member from CMF here to be reflective of the hard work that's going on at CMF and the efforts that our folks work on a daily basis on the apparatus. We're almost through March. The warm weather is upon us. Get out there, take advantage of the weather, get some training done, and be ready for that next call. Until the next time, stay safe.